Hey there! I'm glad you're here this week. We've spent the last few weeks looking at the I am statements found in the Gospel according to John. These were a bunch of clues that the Gospel writer recorded about who Jesus claimed to be. So far, we've looked at I am the bread of life, I am the light for the world, and I am the gate for the sheep. Last week was a pretty long video because I wanted to make sure we realized that these I am statements were actually a really clever way for Jesus to tell people, hey, I'm God, without actually saying those exact words. Because if he had used those words, the religious leaders might have arrested him right then and there. These statements were no accident. As if he wasn't being controversial enough, Jesus went right on, after calling himself the gate for the sheep, to say in John chapter 10, verse 11, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. A shepherd? Most people expected the Messiah, the person God had promised to send to save the Jewish people, to be a king. They expected the Messiah to overthrow the Romans and reestablish the independent kingdom of Judah. And a growing number of people were beginning to think that maybe, just maybe, Jesus might be the Messiah. Well, what do shepherds have to do with kings anyway? What do you think? You know, sometimes there's skills we have that cross job boundaries. I wonder if there's some skills a shepherd might have that might be useful in leading a large group of people. Well, for one thing, shepherds are supposed to be willing to put their own lives in jeopardy in order to protect the sheep from the thieves and predators. And the sheep trust their shepherd wholeheartedly. It turns out that way back in history, one of the first kings had also been a shepherd. Any idea who I'm talking about? Bingo! King David. Well, he was just as big a deal as Moses and Abraham. Of all the kings of the past, David was the one people held up as the standard of what a king should be. That's not to say David was perfect. If you head over to the church webpage, presby.net, on the children's and youth page, you can find a Reform Ancestors video about him. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Anyway, so it turns out that when Jesus claimed to be the good shepherd, it wasn't so crazy. He must have known that people would make that connection. After all, the Messiah was also supposed to be a descendant of King David, and he was. So, here's something to think about. Sometimes in the Bible, it talks about the people of God as if they're sheep. So what about you? If you're a sheep, what does that mean about your relationship with God and Jesus? What do you need from your shepherd right now? Food? Shelter? Rest? Do you need to be found? Maybe those are literal, or maybe they're just metaphorical. However you answer that question, it might be a good idea, it might be helpful to spend some time listening to the Good Shepherd this week. Something to think about. I'll see you next week. Bye.